It's Friday, everybody. This is Outnumbered. I'm Sandra Smith. Here today, Fox Business Network's Dagen McDowell, National Review reporter Katherine Timpf, Democrat strategist Julie Roginsky's on the couch today, and today's hashtag One Lucky Guy, co-host of The Five and host of Cash It In, Eric Bolling is here, and he is outnumbered. And you always like to remind us of something. Well, we'll get that. We'll get to that later in the show.
Yeah, let's save that.
But I said it was stunning. Pink is hot.
Well, thank you. You guys look amazing as well.
That's a great little paisley tie thingy.
Pocket square?
Pocket square, whatever that is.
Thanks for squeezing us in your schedule.
Listen, I'm proud to be here. Thanks for having me.
This is before we stab you in the neck.
I know. It's all right. I'm ready for it.
Okay, yeah, right. All right, let's get started. More details coming out about the FBI pushing to investigate allegations of pay-to-play at Hillary Clinton's State Department before being denied by the Department of Justice. A new report says 3 field offices wanted an investigation launched earlier this year after a bank alerted the FBI to the so-called suspicious activity of a foreign donor to the Clinton Foundation. It also shows a top Clinton aide assisted the charity in its hiring while she worked as a senior official in the State Department. As first reported on CNN, Cheryl Mills, Hillary's chief of staff at State, traveled to New York in 2012 to interview job candidates for a top job at the foundation. When pressed for an explanation, Clinton's campaign says, quote, Cheryl volunteered her personal time to a charitable organization, as she has to other charities. Cheryl paid for her travel to New York City personally, and it was crystal clear to all involved that this had nothing to do with her official duties. The idea that this poses a conflict of interest is absurd. And the State Department insists Mills' trip to the Big Apple was for, quote, personal travel, and that Mills paid for it herself. With all these new developments swirling around the Clinton campaign, Charles Krauthammer had this reaction when I filled in for Megyn last night.
It was not a charity. It was the sort of headquarters of Clinton Inc. And the fact that they did not draw a strict line between State Department and the foundation is, to me, astonishing, not because it's quite politically immoral, but because it is so stupid.
All right, Eric, what do you make of all this?
Well, yesterday, Julie and I had a little discussion on the Clinton Foundation. Is it immoral? Is it unethical? Is it illegal? I mean, which one is it? Or is it just politically corrupt? And I think that at least immoral, unethical, and I'm thinking probably illegal as well, and I think they're going to finally get to this. This is a drip, drip, drip because, for one reason, FOIA requests are so difficult to get. It takes literally months to get one, sometimes even longer. I think they have a 75-year backlog on FOIA right now, so these things start to come out. That's why we don't get them all at once. As you get them, you look at them and see what's going on. 3 field offices recommending at least an investigation. Well, I would say you have to start looking at the DOJ. I guess it's going to be Loretta Lynch, who's decided not to open up an investigation. Why? And don't forget, she's the same person who didn't open up an investigation based on James Comey's recommendation, granted, but didn't with the email server scandal. These are scandal against scandal upon scandal-palooza with the Clintons.
It's unbelievable to me to see that reaction from the Clintons, from Hillary Clinton's camp, saying that it's absurd that anybody would think that this looks any other way.
I know. It's like, well, what's she doing? She's just doing it for fun. Like, she has some time off. You know, you can drink some wine. You can maybe go golfing. No, I'd like to go interview people for the Clinton Foundation, and it's completely just a coincidence that this is my boss's foundation, and there's no way I'm even thinking I'm going to be getting anything out of this. That sounds so ridiculous that I can't believe that she's able to continue to get away with this kind of stuff. I'm like a big fan of logic. I think it's the best, and logic says there's something shady going on.
Is she going to continue to get away with this, or is this going to eventually hurt?
You know, Eric, you and I did talk about this yesterday on The Five, and you know I've been very critical of the foundation and their relationship to the State Department. I will say this particular thing with Cheryl Mills, you have to know the history of Cheryl Mills with the Clintons. The fact is that she's been a factotum of theirs for a generation, if not longer. So it's not a surprise to me that she would be interviewing somebody at the foundation. I don't see the there. In this particular case, what's the conflict of interest?
No,
but honestly,
conflict of interest. She's doing a favor for her boss.
Is that we've already established the fact that there are people asking the State Department for favors to meet up with, to be introduced, to be brokered to an introduction for someone for business dealings. We know that's going on. They've admitted to that.
I agree.
Well, and if you put a second, before it was Aberdeen who was getting the calls, and now you put a second one, at least representing the State Department and representing the Clinton Foundation at the same time.
I don't know that here's the thing to me. Look, let's separate the two issues. The Huma Abedin thing, where she was making money to Teneo, she was on the Clinton Foundation payroll, she was on the State Department payroll. To me, that's absurd and it's inexcusable, and that should never have been. For Cheryl Mills to interview somebody for a job at the Clinton Foundation.
Okay,
but you can't separate, right? You cannot separate these issues. This is a morass created by the Clintons to basically hide their wrongdoing. They use the complexity of these relationships to their advantage, and they operate with impunity. And if the American people think that they won't do the exact same thing under another Clinton administration, then they are as allergic to the truth as Hillary Clinton
But let's break this down. Let's break down the worst possible case scenario. So Cheryl Mills hires Eric Bolling at the Clinton Foundation, right? She recommends that Eric Bolling gets hired at the Clinton Foundation. And?
Because you're not supposed to do that.
And now there may be access provided either through I want access. Now I can get to the State Department. Now I can get to Hillary Clinton.
Let me
give you another example. This is one that a lot of the people from the business world can understand. You can't work for the government and work for Goldman Sachs.
Okay, she's not working for them, though.
But there's a reason
Hold
for
on,
that,
I want to get to one other question.
Of interest.
Going back to these reports now coming out that the FBI wanted to look into this conflict of interest going on, and the Department of Justice denied it. What do you make of that?
If that's true, that's too bad. They should look into it. But look, I will never defend the relationship between the Clinton Foundation and the State Department. I haven't defended it from day one. I'm talking specifically about the Cheryl Mills issue. If somebody,
she worked for the State Department,
I got it.
And she hired for
Eric,
the Clinton
if somebody at the
Foundation.
Clinton Foundation wanted to pick up the phone and call somebody at the State Department, Bill Clinton would pick up the phone and call his wife, Secretary Clinton, to get it done.
Issue
you don't need some staffer to get hired by Cheryl Mills.
Whether it's the White House or the State Department, they have used these jobs where they're supposed to serve the people of the United States to serve themselves and enrich themselves, both in power and purse.
That's a separate issue. I don't
behavior. That's all the same.
But I think that the overarching issue, if she's running for the presidency, it's like, do you trust her to operate in the interest of the people and not the interest of the Clintons?
All right, let's move on. Meantime, Donald Trump responding to a letter signed by more than 70 Republicans, including former members of Congress, urging the RNC to cut off funding to his campaign. The letter asks RNC Chairman Reince Priebus to focus party resources on ensuring the GOP majorities in the House and Senate, basically portraying Trump's campaign as a lost cause. Donald Trump telling Eric Bolling on the factor that Priebus told him it's not true that money will be funneled elsewhere. And Trump went on to say that if the RNC ever did so, it would be the party's loss, not his. Listen.
If it is true, that's okay, too, because all I'll have to do is stop funding the Republican Party. I'm the one raising the money for them. In fact, right now I'm in Orlando. I'm going to a fundraiser for the Republican Party. So if they want to do that, they can save me a lot of time and a lot of energy.
And this morning, Newt Gingrich saying it's just another example of Trump versus the Washington elite system.
I think there are establishment deserters all over the place, and I think that they don't understand the Trump insurgency, or they understand it and it frightens them. Trump is a direct assault on that system.
Is this more of what we've been seeing for months now?
So I think this was interesting. No, the other was where, remember the 50 people, GOPers, who signed a letter saying they can't support Trump. That came out on Tuesday after his big economic speech on Monday. Nice timing on that, fellas. Good job. And ladies, if there were any females on this, I'm not sure if what the breakdown was. However, this is different. This is another group of GOPers saying we want Trump not to get access to the RNC. If you know the politics of this are, the RNC is extremely important. The data, the money going back and forth, the information, the phone numbers, the emails. You really need that as a campaign.
You need that. That's a ground game.
So I pushed back Donald last night, Trump, and I said, well, is that at risk? And he said something like, well, you'll find out in November, which I'm not sure. I didn't really get that answer. I don't know what the answer was.
Seemed like he's really trying, and he should a little.
I will tell you, though, I'm friendly with Reince Priebus, and he is all in on the GOP winning the election. And that right now, the only person you have on the GOP side is Donald Trump.
Can I point something out? It is now, what, a week or 2 weeks before, or 3 weeks before Labor Day. We're going into the final 90 days of this election. Here's the presidential nominee of the Republican Party on the #1 rated cable show in the country, news cable show in the country, potentially trashing Reince Priebus, fighting with fellow Republicans.
Trashing him.
If he's
he didn't trash him.
or threatening, I should say threatening.
No,
We're discussing a GOP civil war.
No, I think he was addressing the 50 Republicans, quote unquote Republicans, who wanted his funding.
The point is, Eric, he wasn't taking the time to address Hillary Clinton. That's problematic.
That's fair enough.
Yeah, he was wasting time talking about that instead of Hillary Clinton. I would agree with that. And also, he certainly hasn't seemed to have tried that hard to kind of make amends with people that are mad at him. He's still doing the I don't need him then thing. I mean, then it's just fighting on both sides.
These Republicans, though, come on, people. He is your nominee, like it or not. Where were you a year ago or more? As my mother would say, if you can't say something nice, shut your mouth.
All right, we've got to get to this. Breaking just moments ago, Hillary Clinton releasing her tax returns. What we are learning. And will this put pressure on Donald Trump to do the same? We take it to the couch next. All right, Hillary Clinton today releasing her tax returns. We've got them right now. The Clintons made just over $10 million in 2015, $10.6 million in 2015. They paid an effective federal rate, tax rate of 34%. This all coming out just now. They donated nearly 10% of their gross income to charity. This is all coming out in a campaign statement. Her running mate, Tim Kaine, also releasing 10 years of his tax returns. He and his wife paid an effective rate of 20% last year. So right now, my question to you, Eric, is, as we do see these, we're going through the numbers right now. Hillary Clinton, her husband, making over $10 million, 34% tax rate. Does this increase pressure on Donald Trump to release his tax return?
Well, I think it does, and I think he will. He says he'll do it after he's through with the audit. I don't know the process of that, and maybe he will, but I think he should eventually release his tax records. But I'd also like her to release. Now, I know they put out a letter saying she's in good health today.
Her doctor released a note too, right?
That's not releasing your medical records.
It's dated 2015.
Okay, and the point is, you want to release medical records. Release medical records. Don't have a doctor. Trump had a doctor write a letter.
But let's get to these numbers, though. Does anything shock you here? Is this a lot of money? Is this less than you think?
It's not a lot of money for someone, for a family in the spotlight the way they are, the celebrities that they are. They make $400,000 or $500,000 on speeches. It's shocking that in a couple years ago she could claim that they were broke when they left the White House. They were never broke. They had money. They knew they were going to make money. They're worth $100 million.
I would love to be that version of broke.
Right.
I love
$100 million.
That 34% tax rate. And
that's an interesting one.
I don't want to speculate about what I don't know, not having read through the tax returns, but her minimum tax, the Buffett tax that she's proposing, is 30% on people making $2 million or more. There's an additional surtax on 4% surtax on people making $5 million or more. So the fact that they their effective tax rate was 34%. It's above her level, so she can say, see, I'm paying my fair share as defined by my own tax plan.
Because this goes back 10 years of tax returns, the Clintons, it is also being revealed in this statement by their campaign that they've paid more than $43 million in federal taxes and more than $14 million in charitable contributions since 2007.
Yeah, so they've always made a lot of money. If you're paying $43 million in taxes at a 30% tax rate, I'll do the math. That's about $120 million in the last 10 years. That's $12 million per year. Don't tell me you're broke. You're not broke. You were never broke.
All of those organizations are paying Bill Clinton $6 figures to speak in front of them, also giving money to the Clinton Foundation, hoping to maybe get some business in front of the State Department.
You know what's more important than Hillary's tax returns? Are those transcripts of her Goldman Sachs, of her speaking engagements? I really want to know what she told Wall Street.
I guarantee you, well, I shouldn't say I guarantee you because I'm not speaking for her, but I bet that she would make that trade if he releases his taxes for the last 10 years.
If I were him, I'd say, done your way. Let's go.
Except you're not him. And you know why he won't do it? The New York Times had an interesting story today on the front cover of Business Day speculating he may pay zero.
Hold on.
Let's
stick to what we know and what he says and why he says he's not releasing his tax returns. He's under an audit right now, and he says he will not release his tax returns until that audit is complete.
Release the tax returns that are not under audit, right? So he has had tax returns that were not under audit. He's only under audit for a year or two, according to him. He hasn't been under audit for previous years. He should release those tax returns. That nothing's preventing him. Secondly,
he does have more pressure on it to do it now.
Secondly, there's nothing to prevent you, as Warren Buffett pointed out, even if you are under audit, from releasing your tax returns. What's the big deal? The IRS has already seen your tax returns.
Because they're not accurate until the audit is through.
Right.
Number one.
Release
Number two,
the
these guys will tell you. Listen, when you're at this level of earners and income, every tax year is dependent on the prior year. It multiplies every single year. So if you have an issue from 2010 that is X amount of hundreds of thousands of dollars, it multiplies geometrically by the time it gets.
People want to know the complete picture, so why not wait until we have the complete picture available?
No, that's true, Julie.
Why don't you release the ones that are not under audit? Why not release the ones that are not under audit?
Complete picture. That's not the full picture.
I'll take the complete picture.
If 1 year is inaccurate, every year after that is inaccurate.
Previous to the audit. How about the tax returns previous to the audit?
How is that relevant?
15 years ago?
I do. I would love to see what he paid 15 years ago. I'd love to see what he paid 10 years ago. I'd love to see what he paid up until he can't release it.
I'd love to see what he was like as a
I
child.
don't know anyone that's done that.
Done what?
Released 15
She's released 10 years. His audit was, I believe, I don't know what year.
For a 15-year look back.
Fine. I want to look back to the year prior to when he says he can't release the money.
He's been audited every year for 15 years. He said that.
Excuse me. The audits have been resolved, right? He hasn't been audited for the last 15 years.
Until every year is resolved, Julie. You know this.
You are coming up with Kool-Aid excuses.
No, it's not a Kool-Aid excuse.
If this were Hillary Clinton,
every year has to be resolved, or none of the years are accurate.
If this were Hillary Clinton, you'd be the first to demand that she release those tax returns.
No, I want to see your transcripts. I don't care about
you would be the
Wait, let's go back to the amount, though. $10.6 million the Clintons made in 2015. What do you make of that amount of money?
They make a lot of money for speeches. A lot of money for speeches.
Speeches which she will not release.
Right,
the transcripts.
Exactly. They're not paying her all this money because she's coming there and talking garbage to them.
She should release.
You pay people because you support their message. She's saying good things, and they definitely support Hillary Clinton and definitely trust that she has their.
Has Trump released his transcripts, by the way, for his paid speeches?
I don't think he's done anything.
He has. He has actually.
He doesn't get paid for those.
Yeah,
he goes on
actually
TV.
Point out something in this doctor's letter, which is dated. It was sent out by Blake Berman, dated 2015, but it goes into a lot of detail about what happened when she fell and hit her head and got a blood clot. I mean, a lot of medical detail. And the last line of the letter is her. She is in excellent physical condition and fit to serve as President of the United States.
You know what, actually?
And I think she's trying to put that to bed because the implications of what's been going on the campaign trail is that something's wrong with her up top.
Yeah, that's true. But also, Eric, how about this? Why doesn't he just release what his effective tax returns for the last 10 years? I'll take that. I don't even want to see the tax returns. Just show me what
he does have more pressure to do things.
Unless you have all the information, what you're using from the prior year, what you're rolling forward.
I'm guessing
you can't
that
come up with a number. You know this.
Well, he's already paid.
This is straight arithmetic.
Eric, he's already paid something. I want to know what he's paid in taxes. I would like to know what his effective tax rate was.
If it's not accurate, you want him to.
Wait a second.
Then he should just tell you, I paid 17%.
I'd love to know that.
I'm guessing that the Clintons paid.
Just make it up because that's as good as what you would get if you look into it.
The money's already spent.
We've got to wrap it up there, but also in this statement coming out of Hillary Clinton's campaign when they did release her taxes, their family's taxes, they said that this sets the standard for financial transparency by releasing the tax returns, and they're calling on Trump to do
using the word transparency is rich.
I'm surprised that's actually in their lexicon.
I know.
We shall leave it there. Donald Trump turning the tables on the media after doubling down on his claims President Obama and Hillary Clinton co-founded ISIS. Trump's new comments and what it means for his candidacy going forward. Plus, Tim Kaine and Mike Pence redefining the traditional role of running mate. Will playing defender rather than attack dog help or hurt their running mate's chances for victory come November? Donald Trump walking back his claims that President Obama and Hillary Clinton are co-founders of ISIS, but not until after multiple interviews where he doubled down on the claim. Here he is telling Hugh Hewitt he meant exactly what he said.
Last night, you said the president was the founder of ISIS. I know what you meant. You meant that he created the vacuum. He lost the peace.
No, I meant he's the founder of ISIS. I do. He's the most valuable player. I give him the most valuable player award. I give her, too, by the way.
But he's not sympathetic to them. He hates them. He's trying to kill them.
He was the founder. The way he got out of Iraq was that was the founding of ISIS.
But by using the term founder, they're hitting with you on this again. Mistake?
No, it's no mistake. Everyone's liking it. I think they're liking it.
But then there was this morning. He tweeted out, quote, ratings challenged CNN reports so seriously that I called President Obama and Clinton, the founder of ISIS, and MVP. They don't get sarcasm? Trump made the same claim of sarcasm last month after calling for Russia to help find Hillary Clinton's deleted emails. All right, so let's discuss this for a second. So he had multiple opportunities, right, Eric, to say, all right, here's exactly what I meant. But no, he went back to those exact words that he founded, the president founded ISIS.
Yeah, even last night, I gave him the opportunity to call it something else. I said, how about call it enabled ISIS? And I bet you'd get a bunch of Democrats that would agree with you that President Obama could have enabled ISIS by creating the vacuum in Iraq that ISIS filled with terror. And he said, no, I'm going to stay with founded ISIS. But, okay, look, I think he at some point has to say, all right, focus our attention on Hillary Clinton. Stop getting yourself into
No, but that was kind of a crazy thing to say, though. You gotta say, you can't, the I'm sarcastic excuse, you can't, that's not how you can live your life. You can't be like, oh, I'm sorry, like, Mr. Undercover Officer, I know I just offered you money to kill my wife, but I was being sarcastic, just kidding. It doesn't just absolve you of everything.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think he should either stayed with founder
but
or...
he's trying to, I don't know if he's trying to be interesting, but he doesn't have to go there.
But Julie, you could make the case that we have seen Hillary Clinton do similar things to Donald Trump, like reference him as an ISIS recruiter. Listen.
He is becoming ISIS's best recruiter. They are going to people showing videos of Donald Trump insulting Islam and Muslims in order to recruit more radical jihadists.
The way Donald Trump talks about terrorism and his, very insulting language toward Muslims is making him the recruiting sergeant for ISIS.
She's suggesting he's actually recruiting for ISIS?
Here's the difference. If Sandra Smith were to ask Hillary Clinton on TV, if she were to sit down with you, are you literally suggesting that Donald Trump is recruiting for ISIS? Don't you simply mean that his rhetoric is helping ISIS recruit candidates? And she said, no, Sandra. No, I literally mean she's recruiting for ISIS.
I could see her going on to explain just how he is helping the situation.
Exactly right, which is what Donald Trump should have done. Eric is absolutely right. He should have said to Hugh Hewitt, you know what I meant? I meant that he created a vacuum in Syria, he created a vacuum in Iraq, and because of her
Here's the difference,
policy.
Here's the difference.
What?
Donald Trump has asked the question again and again. Hillary gets to say it and never gets asked it a second time.
Fine, you could blame the media for it, but the problem for Donald, but the problem for Donald Trump is this: he's constitutionally incapable of talking about her for a long period of time.
Dagen.
All he does is talk about himself, and this is why he gets into problems like this. He's incapable of bringing the message back to what needs to be brought back to her.
When I see those clips of Hillary Clinton, it makes the hair stand up on the back of my neck, because I've heard this from the left, that somehow the United States and our actions on the world stage prior to 9/11 brought those attacks on this very nation, and it smacks of that. And I find it absolutely repugnant. On the other hand, with Donald Trump, I think people ask me in the street. I had so many people in the last few days when I was in Virginia ask me, oh my God, can you believe what Donald Trump said? And I actually
people in Virginia talk like?
And yeah, well, in Charlottesville they do, because they're all from the Northeast. And I said, you know what? I'm kind of plumb full of outrage at this point. I'm a little bit numb to it, and I think there's some of the strategy to that. The more that he does that, people just become immune to reaction. But I've said this about President Obama over and over again: his refusal to call terrorists radical Islamic terrorists. Words do matter. And if I'm going to hold the president to that standard, then the candidates have to be held to that standard as well.
And so he had so many opportunities, Kat. He didn't see the need to clarify his statement.
No, because he loves doing this thing where he says things that are bold and gets attention. It's more exciting to listen to him talk, which is true. But when you're running up against the most boring person like ever, you can tone it down a little bit so you don't get yourself in this kind of trouble. I mean, we're talking about somebody that we want to be president. We don't want to have to worry about them saying stuff like this.
And by the way,
rather than explaining themselves.
That remark that he made about John McCain last year was actually, I don't know if he knows it, but it was a joke ripped off from Chris Rock from 2008. He just didn't know how to tell it well.
It wasn't even his joke.
Well, but can I just say, he said, if you notice how he put it, ratings challenge CNN. All Donald Trump cares about is ratings, eyeballs, and he's ever increasing rhetoric to try to get those ratings up for himself. He's a reality star who's running for president, and you see that in the rhetoric, and that's why it's so incendiary.
Moving on to this, the traditional role of the vice presidential nominee is being put to the test rather than solely playing the part of attacking their candidate's opponent. Both Tim Kaine and Mike Pence are spending their time playing defense for the two candidates who are battling some of the highest unfavorable numbers ever seen in American politics. Here's Governor Mike Pence clarifying Donald Trump's ISIS comments yesterday in Wisconsin.
And the media is talking today about another controversy over semantics. But let's be very clear. It was Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton who helped undo all the hard-fought gains in Operation Iraqi Freedom that our soldiers won in securing that nation.
Senator Kaine is also spending plenty of time doing damage control over Hillary Clinton's ongoing email controversy.
She said it was a mistake. I am not presumptuous enough to start thinking about how I'm going to do things after November, but I know that this is something that she's learned from, and we're going to be real transparent, absolutely.
Eric, in terms of Mike Pence, Mike, like I know him on a first-name basis, the governor, has really come to Donald Trump's defense. It started when he made those comments about Russia uncovering Hillary Clinton's lost emails. And then after the Khan family controversy, he came out after that with a statement and he endorsed Paul Ryan when Trump and Ryan were having a dust-up. Is this effective, though?
See what's happening here? So both of the surrogates are doing damage control for their number ones, but on Donald Trump's, the damage control is what he said about Khan, what he said about Hillary Clinton, what he said about the Second Amendment. On Hillary Clinton's side, the surrogate is doing damage control about what she did. She lied about her emails. Possibly four Americans died because she was lying about Benghazi. She lied about the Clinton Foundation information that we're finding out now. So on one hand, you worry about what Donald Trump says, and the media makes a big deal about it, and maybe you should fix that. But you can't fix what she's already done. Her actions are what's going to bury her candidacy. His words, his mouth, his rhetoric may or may not.
I would say, looking at the polls, Eric, that his rhetoric is absolutely
polls are, you know, Julie, polls are a snapshot in time right now.
That's a great cliche, but I think I have to tell you,
2 weeks ago, Donald Trump was winning.
I wouldn't want to have
after in halftime after he had his convention and there was no rebuttal.
Yeah, but he was.
Do you think that Mike Pence gets mad?
But you understand,
like when Trump says something else, he gets mad. Like really, again, it's like bringing like a date to a party and he gets really drunk and you have to be like, oh, I'm sorry, like he's just tired, he won't do it again. That's his life every day.
Trump.
By the way, on the polls, though, every pollster I've talked to, both on the right and on the left, have said you got to wait until Labor Day to really watch the polls.
Let's see what Trump does in the next 3 weeks to pivot, because I know we talk about the great pivot that's coming any day now. So I think in the next couple of weeks, it's definitely coming.
So I think you make a great point, but I'm wondering who has a bigger job cut out for them when you look at Kaine and Pence. I mean, fair enough, Eric. You're pointing out that Kaine is defending her actions in the past.
People would say
Pence
people
is defending
died.
his words.
She lied, people died. I've heard that 100 times. There are 4 families that still blame Hillary Clinton for that. Email scandal, server scandal, lied about the server scandal, lied about the Clinton Foundation. We're still finding more, but these are big things. Donald Trump says stuff sometimes.
But do either one of these gentlemen have any impact on voters? They're out there making excuses for the nominees. Do they have any impact? Can they even carry their own states? I mean, she's leading in Virginia in the polls that I've looked at, but in terms of that's why they're there, is to carry those battlegrounds. Yes. Eric?
Listen, he's got work to do. There's no question about it. But again, if the American voter goes, do I care about someone who talks a big game and isn't always accurate, or do I care about someone who honestly is untrustworthy, dishonest, and may be harmful to people? I think
but you know, Eric, looking at the same bonds and polls we talked about, their dishonesty and distrustful comparisons are about equal. I mean, as many people that feel that she's dishonest and not trustworthy.
In the Fox poll,
I care about what she did.
I get it.
She lied. I care about she.
But voters are seeing it the same way. So you need to take a look at that.
You're not the target voter. We know how you're voting. I'm not the target voter.
Well, the independents should look at those too.
They are, and the independents are splitting on their trustworthiness for the most part.
So who decided to sit you guys?
We love it. It was 3 days of hanging out together. Are you kidding?
You guys are friends.
We love each other.
So far, Mr. Pence and Mr. Kaine have been very even-keeled. I can't wait to see when one of them makes makes a big verbal mistake because you know it's a coming.
Oh, wow, that's a good point.
So, you know, again, it's interesting every day. A decision by the NFL causing another controversy. The league denying a request by the Dallas Cowboys to honor Dallas's 5 police officers who were murdered last month. Why the league's decision doesn't necessarily line up with its policy on uniforms.
The NFL is facing a new controversy. With the start of the season less than a month away, the league denying the Dallas Cowboys' request to wear a decal on their helmets during the season that would have paid tribute to the 5 police officers murdered in an ambush last month. The team had been wearing the decal with the words "arm in arm" during training camp in support of those officers. The NFL says it denied the request in keeping with its strict rules on uniforms. But it seems those rules aren't exactly written in stone. Look at this. The league allowed the Broncos to wear decals to remember victims of the theater shooting in Aurora, Colorado, as well those killed in wildfires in 2012. And 5 years ago, the Patriots wore a jersey patch with the initials of Myra Kraft, the late wife of team owner Robert Kraft. It also let the Packers wear patches for home games to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Lambeau Field in 2007. Cowboys owner Jerry Jones and Jason Witten, the player behind the decal, both say they're disappointed with the NFL's decision.
The fact that it's being noted and talked about accomplishes a lot.
We'll move forward, and we understand the guidelines of the league. And as I said, that doesn't stop what our real message was and what we're trying to do.
All right, so what do you make of the fact that they are not allowing them to wear the decal honoring these fallen policemen?
So surprising. Listen, I am a massive, massive law enforcement backer. In fact, during both of the conventions, I had different forms of law enforcement come on the show, talk about what they do. That said, I'd like to take it one step further. I don't think it should just be about the Dallas cops. Remember a couple of weeks prior to that, or after that, there were 5 cops shot in Louisiana. Here's what I think the NFL should do, and Roger Goodell is a friend, and I'm making this recommendation to him. Give it a law enforcement weekend. The whole weekend about law enforcement. Every team respects and honors law enforcement, not just the Dallas Cowboys. That would solve a lot of issues. I think everyone, by the way, I think everyone would be okay with that.
Put the arm-in-arm decal on every helmet. Every helmet in the league.
I mean, we do
we
do breast cancer, we do autism, we do a month of breast cancer, we do military weekends.
So you're referencing that 2015 when they did the breast cancer awareness month for October. They all wore those pink helmet decals. Remember, we saw so much pink on the field, so they allowed it then. So that's why.
And they also allowed the hands up, don't shoot expression by those few St. Louis Rams, and those gentlemen, because of free speech, were not disciplined, even though that gesture was built on a falsehood, on a lie. So I just
there's the video, by the way, Dagen, of what you're talking about.
Pictures. The league needs to get its priorities straight, and I'm going to pivot to NASCAR, because NASCAR gets this right over and over again. They honor people, racing legends, and these very often are people like Mario Fior, who no one has ever heard of, people who were just car owners. When people pass away, when they are killed, they are honored on the cars, and it is, and they feel like it is their duty as drivers and owners to do that, and it's the league's duty to honor the police officers.
And if you want to talk like what you said about having a weekend where the whole NFL, you know, that's a good idea. But if you talk about Dallas specifically, especially, I have a lot of family that are in the Dallas police force, I have uncles, and it's you know, it's been a really hard few weeks for them, not, you know, their families, their friends. It's the whole community. It's something that is grieving. And if they want to express it that way, they should be able to. I think it's a great thing. And I don't think anybody believes it's really about the rules, right? They wanted to use that. They breathed a sigh of relief. Okay, we don't have to get involved in this because we can just say the rules. And nobody thinks it's really about that.
But what's depressing about this is that they have made exceptions, right? So if this were a rule that was a sacrosanct rule and we weren't going to ever violate it, then okay, fine. But as you pointed out, they violated it over and over and over again. Why not violate it now? Why not allow this to happen?
They don't want to get involved.
But it's not even a matter of getting involved. You know, it doesn't matter where you come down on this Black Lives Matter issue. This is what's wrong with saying that cops are good people and they're safe.
Cops are being killed in every single city in America all year long. This is one of the most deadly years for law enforcement. look, I get it. That community is struggling, but so are other communities whenever a cop is shot.
But to even not let that community do it
as much as I love the sport, I think that the league has shown that it's missing a sensitivity chip on a number of different issues, this being one of them.
Yep. Ooh. Missed opportunity, Eric? No?
No. I think there is, if they don't do it as on a full weekend for law enforcement, do it. You do it for military, do it for law enforcement.
All right.
All season.
A large public school district pushing to dump the term boys and girls for students? Really? And now enter the gender unicorn, a cartoon character that's supposed to help teachers and staff understand gender fluidity. Parents calling it PC craziness or just ridiculous. We're going to debate it next.
Old Noel was there to answer the call. He finished up making the ark just as the rain started falling. He marched in the animals to buy.
We're outnumbered in just a moment, but first, let's get to Jenna Lee with what is coming up on the second hour of Happening Now. Hey, Jenna.
Hi there, Sandra. Next hour, Hillary Clinton turning up the pressure on Donald Trump this hour, releasing, as you know, 10 years of tax returns along with running mate Tim Kaine. She's reiterating calls on Trump to release his tax returns, and so far, Trump hasn't responded, so we'll watch for that. In the meantime, historic rainfall in parts of the Gulf today. We've received reports some people are being rescued as flash floods hit several areas of Louisiana and Mississippi. More on that developing story as we get it. Plus, stocks taking a bit of a breather today after all three indices hit record highs. That hasn't happened since December 31st, 1999. So it was a record, at least for Wall Street. We'll keep an eye on stocks today, and we'll see you top of the hour.
All right, Jenna, thank you.
All right, thank you. Hey, producers, can we fix that banner right down there? Please fix it.
Oh, my gosh.
Thank you very much. Right. Let's go. The PC police are at it again. In North Carolina school district is now recommending teachers avoid using the terms boy or girl for children in favor of gender-neutral terms like scholars and students. They've also added a gender unicorn to their teacher training program. The cartoon character is meant to help staffers understand the sliding scale of gender identity and sexual orientation. The school district says it's all about providing a safe environment for all students, but there are growing protests from some parents and staff. One parent saying, quote, "It was really slick. It's a friendly looking and deceitful because the unicorn to me represents the religion of sex. It's silencing and penalizing those of us who believe we were created why am I reading male and female, and should be able to use those terms." The school district in the Charlotte region has nearly 150,000 students. Mitty with kids.
Oh, I am the mother of two very young children, so I am thinking about their future. Starting elementary school in a couple years, and I'm worried that school is no longer about reading, writing, and math. I mean, what is happening? We can't call girls girls and boys boys anymore, and that unicorn, quite frankly, could be a little bit scary.
A little creepy?
A little creepy.
You know what's creepy?
What?
Greg Gutfeld has a pink unicorn right here that we got from I don't know where we got it.
That's clearly a scholar.
It's a religion of sex. I didn't know that that's what Greg does.
I was unaware of this
This is what Gutfeld worships. The religion of sex is embodied by this
I have to look at this in the makeup room every day. This thing is perched on top of a cabinet.
So what about it? Listen, the PC is off the charts.
Right over it.
Off the charts now. This is a terrible example.
I was educated in a very small public school system up until the time I was 15, and I was so poorly undereducated. I don't understand how much you can expect these teachers in these public schools to do. And I want to give a shout out to my parents, because my mother, again, it's out of the home and not in the schools. My mom sat me down when I was like 12 and said, "Honey, I just want you to know, you're going to figure out who you are in the next few years, and if it turns out you like girls instead of boys, that's fine. We love you just the same."
No, right. Well,
I think that's a conversation that every parent needs to have.
Exactly. These are things that can be handled on a case-by-case basis or a student-by-student basis, and the teachers and the parents and everyone can work together to handle these individual issues. But saying a blanket statement, you can't call anyone a girl or a boy. I don't understand how that's necessary. I don't understand why that's something that they're spending time doing. That doesn't make any sense at all.
Can I dismantle this a little bit? Because the theory is that people may be living as a boy but identifying as a girl and haven't made that full turn.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Haven't made that full transition.
You can talk about it if that issue occurs.
If you say he, when he's really a she by identity, you're insulting.
Look, I'm going to say this. I think, unfortunately, not everybody has the mother that you have, Dagen. And so as a result, there are a lot of kids that rely on teachers and on school to set a positive example. So I think if you're a transgender student or you're going through something along those lines, it's nice to be supported in a school. However, preventing teachers from referring to somebody as a boy or a girl is beyond that. It's separate from that. A lot of the things that the Charlotte, as a Mecklenburg school, that they're doing is actually very positive, but let's not take it too far, because there are boys and there are girls out there who refer to that way.
I expect the teachers to just have a certain level of sensitivity, and maybe this is too high a bar, but I expect them to have a level of sensitivity that they wouldn't need training on how to deal with young people who people in their classes who are transgender.
Smitty, there are some, hold one second, there are somewhere around 60 different ways to identify your gender on Facebook. Is that where we're going?
If our school system in this country was perfect and we were producing kids that were better than every single country in the world, and we had a perfect situation, Eric, I think it's okay to start to look at details like this. But right now, we have a serious problem educating people in this country.
I still don't know geometry.
Oh, boy.
But there are,
I can help you out with that.
I'm sorry, but we do have kids who are literally committing suicide because of what they're hearing in school. Because
we do need to have sensitivity. We do need to pay attention to these things, but no, not calling them boys and girls.
More outnumbered. Just a second.
Thanks to Eric Bolling. Hi. You're a busy guy tonight. You're going to be hosting Bill O'Reilly, 8 o'clock Eastern Time, Fox News Channel.
Yep. This is going to be a big show. We're going to go with so much news to talk about, all these emails.
Tomorrow, Call of Freedom, 10 a.m. to noon.
Tom Fitton as well.
All right.
That's right.
We're back on TV Monday at noon Eastern, and Happening Now starts right now.